At the inheritance proceeding, my father appeared smug. "You'll never lay a finger on that cash again." My sibling chimed in, "Exactly." My mother grinned. "He isn't worth a single penny." The magistrate unsealed my note, skimmed it, then chuckled deeply. He murmured softly, "Well, this is rich." They seemed horrified. "My name's Gary. I'm 36, a key specialist, and supposedly the dependable kid in my household. If a key breaks off in a cylinder at 2 a.m., I'm the one who arrives with a kit and stale coffee scent. I've been manipulating locks since my teens, sitting in the front seat of my dad's ancient truck, while he droned on about diligence and devotion. Now I possess that truck. I possess the company. I cover my own lease, my own coverage, my own all. And strangely, I also wound up funding half of my parents' existence. I'm the one who repaired their entryway when my dad banged it so fiercely, the jam split during a spat with my mom. I swapped the latches when my sister ended things with her former partner and couldn't pay a key expert. I installed fresh bolts on Grandma's residence when she fell ill, and Mom freaked about intruders sneaking in. I never billed them for any of it, not ever. They're kin, aren't they? That's what I repeated to myself. The initial fracture appeared at weekend meal last year, just the four of us at the table in my parents' home. Baked fowl, spuds, the familiar old surface I'd completed assignments on as a child. Dad filled his glass with more vino and eyed me across the edge. "You realize you're fortunate, Gary," he stated. "If it weren't for us, you'd still be duplicating spares in the rear of some equipment shop." I set my utensil down. "I constructed the enterprise, Dad," he scoffed. "Using my instruments, my truck, never overlook who launched you." Mom extended her hand and patted his limb. "He's merely touchy, disregard him." My sister Lauren grinned slyly, twirling her vino. "Seriously, Mom, Gary perpetually pretends he achieved it solo. He ignores his relatives until he requires aid." That prompted a harsh, mirthless chuckle from me. "When have I required anything from you?" She flickered her eyes as if she truly couldn't recall one instance. "Well, you shall, when Dad's passed, when the property is ours, when Grandma's funds arrive. You'll be thankful we managed it all." An odd hush followed her words. Dad shot her a glance like she'd revealed excess. Mom cleared her windpipe and shifted topics to some local's fresh infant. I didn't press. But that marked the initial moment I grasped there was an entire dialogue about funds and theirs that excluded me. And it certainly wasn't the final. For background, I've been independent since 19. Dad booted me after a dispute over university. I preferred vocational training. He demanded I toughen up and simply labor with him. I managed both. Daytime hours with him, evening lessons. Covered my own lease in a cramped lower-level unit that reeked of damp and tobacco fumes. When he stepped down at 55, he transferred the company to me, meaning he completed the forms placing it under my title, and then shamed me into providing him a modest monthly appreciation. That appreciation was a larger slice of my earnings than I'd ever confess aloud. "Just until I organized my retirements," he claimed. That occurred 8 years prior. Mom labored part-time at a beauty parlor and full-time at mediating. My sister Lauren drifted from one position to another like a pastime. Fitness guide, online promoter, health advisor. She always sported fresh attire, fresh device, fresh trips. Sponsorships, she'd claim. Like that justified why my parents' plastic was perpetually maxed. Whenever issues arose, I received the summons. "Gary, the latch on the rear entry is jamming. Can you drop by?" "Gary, your sister's secured herself out of her vehicle once more." "Gary, could you handle the fuel tab this month? Your father's payment fell short. Always trailed by. We'll reimburse you. You know we're reliable, we're kin." I maintained a ledger of their debts initially. Then I halted because seeing the figure rise nauseated me. It wasn't merely minor items. It was the occasion I settled 3 months of their home loan so the lender wouldn't misunderstand. It was the occasion I co-endorsed a borrowing so Dad could acquire the rig he merited. When Grandma weakened 2 years back, I was the sole one who saw her consistently. She resided across the city in this compact stone dwelling with an aged metal bolt and a link on the interior she declined to detach. "You're the only one who masters that contraption," she'd quip, observing me release it in one fluid action. I delivered her provisions, mended her creaky panes, fitted a viewer so she could spot visitors at the entry. Lauren appeared twice, once for a social media snap in Grandma's yard, once to gripe about the internet. My parents. They'd visit if there was a medical visit or forms to complete. One evening, while I was replacing the core on her entry, Grandma waddled nearby with a dossier in her grasp. Her digits trembled as she parted it. "I've revised my testament," she announced. "Don't pull that expression. I'm aged, not foolish." I dried my palms on my trousers. "You needn't reveal that to me, I insist." She prodded the opening sheet. "The dwelling transfers to you." I stared. "What? No, it ought to transfer to Mom." She wagged her head resolutely. "Your mother will liquidate it and deliver every dime to your father and your sister. You're the one who maintains this site upright. You're the one who arrives." I didn't debate because I recognized her accuracy. "I also reserved some reserves for you," she appended softly. For your enterprise, fresh truck, fresh gear, something that's yours, not theirs. I sensed this peculiar blend of thankfulness and apprehension. Mom and Dad are going to freak, I grumbled. Grandma grinned, slight and weary. Then perhaps they should have come more. She departed 6 months on. The memorial was strained. Mom wailed loudly, gripping Lauren. Dad performed the reserved act. I toted Grandma's image, directed attendees to seats, ensured the food provider was compensated. After, in the lot, Dad slapped my back. Fret not over the dull paperwork, he stated. Your mother and I will manage the assets. You just concentrate on the company. I caught the stress on we. I also recalled Grandma's dossier. Grandma already discussed it with me, I replied. She desired me to possess the dwelling. Dad's grip stiffened. She was muddled toward the conclusion. She uttered plenty. Mom assented too swiftly. Dear, you know she wasn't lucid. I extracted my device and accessed the message from Grandma's attorney, the one she'd included me on months prior to her end. She was precise, I stated. This is from her counsel. I'm copied. Lauren sighed dramatically. Oh my God, Gary, you're truly going to bicker over a dwelling. You earn solid income. Just permit Mom and Dad some stability. I've been funding their stability for ages. I uttered before restraining myself. Dad's expression solidified. Watch it, he whispered. You don't wish to seem unappreciative. A week on, I discovered a probate session was set. I wasn't summoned to the initial attorney gathering. Mom neglected to inform me the timing. I learned from a message the counsel left on my work line, inquiring why I hadn't endorsed some initial papers they'd dispatched via the household. When I rang Mom, she sounded insulted. Well, we merely figured you were too occupied for forms, she stated. We were going to determine the optimal strategy for all and then include you. Optimal strategy for all. In my household, always signified optimal for Lauren and Dad. I motored over that night. There were new latches on Grandma's entry, not the ones I fitted. Inexpensive, glossy, generic junk from the equipment outlet. My keys no longer functioned. Locals informed me my dad had swapped them the prior day to deter hooligans. Standing on that stoop, clutching useless keys in my palm, it struck me. They weren't barring hooligans, they were barring me. The following dawn, I ceased being the dutiful offspring. I took a workday off, something I never permit, and headed directly to the counsel whose title was on Grandma's message. He recognized me immediately. Pleased you arrived, he stated, rifling through a pile of folders. I pondered why your parents pushed so intensely to streamline the assets. He pushed a dossier over the surface. It was Grandma's initial testament, my title on the dwelling, my title on a reserve fund, evident as daylight. Then he retrieved another paper. This, he stated, is what your parents requested I submit alternatively. It was an altered edition, purportedly drafted mere weeks before Grandma departed. Everything now divided 3 paths among Mom, Dad, and Lauren. My title appeared solely in a lone phrase about keepsake objects. The endorsement at the base seemed off, too unsteady, the incorrect curve on the G. I'd observed Grandma endorse celebration notes my entire existence. She'd never formed her G that way. Did you observe her endorse this? I inquired. The counsel winced. No. Your father delivered it and already endorsed and certified by a pal of his. I declined to submit it without consulting you initially. That's why I left those messages. I chuckled. This brief, incredulous noise. Of course Dad had a buddy who'd certify anything for a service. Can you demonstrate it's bogus? I asked. He lifted shoulders. Script analysts. Health documents about her condition on that day. The reality you possess prior messages. It's not insignificant. He halted, but frankly, inheritance court despises conflict. They prefer tidy narratives. Harmonious households. We both knew mine wasn't. I returned home and perched at my dining surface with a notepad, my device, and a decade of bitterness. I reviewed every financial record where I'd handled their home loan, every move labeled Mom Lease or Dad Rig, every note where they'd vowed reimbursement or stated things like, you know the property will be yours someday regardless. So what's the variance? By midnight, I had a modest pile of printed captures and a throbbing head. I drafted a note, not some passionate tirade, just timelines, sums, vows. The reality that Grandma had messaged both me and her counsel. The reality that my parents attempted to submit a late alteration without including me. At the close, I penned one line that sensed like shutting an entry. If the court opts to uphold the falsified paper, I officially retract from all casual monetary aid of my parents and sister. I will not be subsidizing their way of life based on a legacy that was meant to assist me recoup the expenses I've already borne. I messaged a duplicate to the counsel. He rang me the next day. This is comprehensive, he stated. Are you certain you wish to pursue this path? It'll create chaos. They already created chaos, I stated. I'm just not tidying it for them anymore. He exhaled. Fine. I'll present it to the court as your declaration. 2 weeks on, we all converged in the identical timberline chamber. That's where the phrase you provided me truly occurred. Dad rose with his palm on Lauren's arm like he was showcasing her for an award. Mom sat rigid adjacent to them, jewels on, expression tight. I was solitary on the opposite side, in my labor slacks and a collared shirt that still carried a faint hint of lubricant no matter how often I cleaned it. Dad peered back at me and grinned smugly. "You'll never lay a finger on that cash again," he whispered low. Lauren appended without pivoting. "Exactly." Mom didn't glance at me. She just uttered, soft but audible, "He isn't worth a single penny." I sensed my teeth grind, but I didn't retort. The magistrate entered, all stood the standard process. He leafed through the dossiers, posed a few routine queries, and then stopped. He lifted a bound group of sheets and narrowed eyes. His lips curved. "This must be the note," he stated. Mom furrowed. "What note?" The magistrate ignored her. He parted it, reviewed it rapidly, and then, no hyperbole, he chuckled. A genuine, swift guffaw in the midst of that oppressive, silent space. He wagged his head and uttered nearly to himself, "Well, this is rich." My parents at last appeared anxious. "Your Honor," Dad stated, "what's occurring?" The magistrate reclined. "Mr. and Mrs. Collins," he stated deliberately, "your offspring has just supplied a highly precise monetary record of the past 10 years, including proof that the departed clearly planned to reimburse him for those expenditures via this residence and reserve fund." Lauren directed me a glare like I'd just knifed her. Mom's complexion paled. The magistrate proceeded, tone steady but resolute. "Given the variances between the initial testament recorded and the recent paper your acquaintance certified, combined with your offspring's proof, I am directing a script evaluation and a short-term halt on any asset shifts." Dad stammered, "This is absurd. He's attempting to penalize us." The magistrate arched a brow. "From my vantage, Mr. Collins, it appears he's merely attempting to cease being your lender." For the initial moment in my existence, someone in power voiced aloud what I'd sensed for years, and my household appeared horrified. All that followed shifted rapid and sluggish simultaneously. Rapid, because the lawful matters detonated. Sluggish, because my feelings didn't match the pace. A few days post-proceeding, Dad rang me. I allowed it to voicemail. His tone emerged taut, managed. "Gary, you must withdraw that note. You've shamed us. This is a household issue, not a court display. Ring me and we'll resolve it like grown-ups." Like grown-ups. The identical man who falsified his mother-in-law's testament wants to resolve it like grown-ups. I didn't ring back. Instead, I contacted my lender. I eliminated my parents as backup links. I shut the shared plastic I'd foolishly started with Mom just for crises. I terminated the automatic shift I'd been dispatching to Dad every month for his stepping down. The initial month that shift didn't come, he messaged, "Where's the cash? Don't be childish. We nurtured you." I responded with a capture of my note's final section. He didn't reply. Lauren was more theatrical. She flooded my device with notes. "I can't fathom you do this to Mom. Grandma cherished all of us. You're distorting everything. After all we've provided for you." I entered and erased 5 varied responses before ultimately dispatching one line. "Swap your own latches from now on." She viewed it and didn't reply. Labor became my refuge. It's amusing. I spent years unlocking entries for others. Now, every time I inserted a new core or repinned in Workplace, it felt like a subtle cue that I could seal some too. My steady clients noted I was more reserved, more intent. One elderly patron, Mr. Patel, observed me swap his shopfront bolt and stated, "You seem weary, Gary." "Kin," I chuckled. "Is it that clear?" He lifted shoulders. "Kin is always clear. You mend latches, but folks always attempt to slip in where they're not welcome." 2 months post-proceeding, the script specialist submitted his findings. They altered what was deemed void. The timing didn't align with Grandma's health logs. She'd been admitted, deeply sedated, the day they asserted she'd endorsed it. The endorsement had irregularities. The certification was inventive. The magistrate reinstated the initial testament. The dwelling was mine, the reserve fund too. Mom rang, weeping. "How could you inflict this on us?" She sobbed. "We were relying on that dwelling for our stepping down. Your father already informed everyone we'd be relocating there." I perched on my sofa, device on loudspeaker, gazing at the empty screen. "Grandma informed me that dwelling was for me." I stated. "She informed you too. You just disliked it. That's not the issue." Mom retorted, the sobs vanishing like a flip. "We're your guardians. You're meant to support us." I stated softly, "for 10 years with my cash. My hours, my enterprise." This, I waved around even though she couldn't view, was meant to help me escape that burden. "You attempted to seize it too." A lengthy halt. "You're being theatrical," she stated eventually. "We never requested anything from you." I genuinely chuckled. "I possess the financial records, Mom, and the notes." The magistrate viewed them. "Why are you tallying points?" she insisted. "That's not what kin does." "That's precisely what kin does when the other party feigns the tally doesn't exist." She disconnected on me. For a period, there was complete quiet. No weekend meals. No, "Can you drop by and check the latch?" No urgent rings about Lauren's newest split. It felt oddly serene. I passed weekends at Grandma's dwelling instead, clearing wardrobes, refreshing surfaces. mending the items Dad neglected for years. I discovered aged images of her as a youth, smiling on that identical stoop. I discovered instructions penned in her tidy script. I discovered a tiny packet with my title on it hidden in the rear of her closet. Inside was a memo. If they turn this dwelling into a war zone, recall, you needn't remain and battle their method. You can seal the entry and depart. Love, Gran. I perched on the sleeping area floor and wept for the initial time since this began. Not huge, showy wails, just soft, drained drops. Beyond all that, existence improved. I employed an additional specialist for the company so I wasn't available every night. I enhanced my truck like Grandma desired. I ceased accepting tasks that compensated invisibility or services and began prizing my hours. I formed pals beyond labor, fellows from the fitness center, a server from the brew spot who knew my preference by memory, a local who requested aid building furnishings and compensated me in slices and ale, but also esteem. One of my relatives, Jenna, connected unexpectedly. She dispatched a private message on networking. Hey, I caught some insane tailies from your mom about you seizing the dwelling. Then Amelia clarified, just wanted to say I'm apologetic. And I'm impressed with you for defending yourself. We gathered for a meal a week on. She confessed the relatives' online discussion had been a chaos of rumors and suffered tailies about me. They claim you're distant, she stated, mixing her beverage, that you're deserting them. I lifted shoulders. I swapped the latches. She chortled. Yeah, they detest that. Dad ultimately dispatched one more note. We're deeply let down in you. When we're past, you'll lament how you're behaving. I gazed at it for an extended time. For once, I didn't sense that ancient guilt or dread, just ease. I entered back. When you're past, I'll long for the notion of the guardians I desired, not the ones who attempted to plunder me. He left me viewed. Last I caught, they're leasing a tinier spot nearer to Lauren. The lender finally refused when they attempted to redo the old dwelling. They were completely about to acquire. Lauren shared something ambiguous on networking about harmful folks taking what's yours. All her pals noted things like, you merit more, dear. I didn't trouble justifying myself. The folks who count already grasp the reality. The others can remain sealed out. A few weeks back was the ultimate inheritance review, just a swift, routine item to verify the shift was finished. Entering that identical chamber felt altered this time. I wasn't trembling. I wasn't awaiting my parents to create a fuss. They didn't even appear. Their counsel managed it quietly, evidently finished with the entire ordeal. When the magistrate endorsed the final sheet, he eyed me. You faring okay, Mr. Collins? He inquired. I considered fibbing, stating, yeah, okay, appreciate and exiting. Instead, I stated, I'm progressing. He assented. Households and funds, he stated. I witness it daily. For what it's valued, setting a boundary doesn't make you a poor offspring. It makes you a rational grown-up. I toted that with me all the way to Grandma's dwelling. I stood on the stoop, keys in my grasp, my keys to my latch, and grasped something basic. For years, I'd been frightened that if I halted paying, halted mending, halted saving, I'd forfeit my household. Then I halted, and yes, I forfeited them, but I also forfeited the ongoing worry of my device humming with requests. I forfeited the ill sensation in my gut every time I viewed my total after rescuing them. I forfeited the warped small voice that claimed, you owe them all. In its stead, there's a calm I'm still adjusting to. Now when my device rings, it's generally a client, a pal, a relative, someone who seeks my hours and is prepared to honor it. I still mend latches for income. I still pilot the truck. I still tote a circle of keys weighty enough to mark my side. The variance is I'm not attempting to gain affection with every twist of the tool. Folks inquire if I'll ever mend ties with my parents. Perhaps. If they ever regret without adding a however. If they ever confess what they did, if they ever arrive without anticipating a payment, a service, a gratis mend. Until then, my limits aren't penalty, they're safeguard. From now on, if someone desires into my existence, they don't receive a duplicate of the key just because we share lineage. They demonstrate they can rap, pause, and enter with honor. Grandma used to claim, a solid latch doesn't bar decent folks. It bars the incorrect ones from strolling in like they possess the site. For the initial time in my existence, I finally comprehend what she intended. I'm not the household fund source. I'm not the contingency. I'm not the youngster they can shame into covering their tabs because you'll retrieve it all someday. That someday arrived. They attempted to pilfer it, and I exited that chamber with more than a dwelling and a reserve fund. I exited with evidence that I was never insane, never greedy, never unthankful. I was exploited. Now I'm finished. I swapped the latches. And this time, the sole person with a universal key is me.